The sky was heavy with strange colors, a mix of purple and green that shimmered like waves on water. The human walked alone through the alien wilderness, his steps slow but steady. He had been traveling for hours, guided only by the faint glow of the plants that lit up the ground. The air was cold, carrying a sharp smell of metal and dust. Every sound echoed too loudly, as if the forest itself wanted him to leave. He kept moving, though a part of him wished to stop and rest. His body was tired, but his mind stayed alert. This land was not safe. He knew danger often came quietly, with no warning. That was why, when he heard the first sound, he froze. It was not the wind. It was not the sound of trees bending. It was a voice, soft, fragile, a voice that sounded like a child. The human's heart quickened. He strained his ears, trying to catch it again. The voice came once more, clearer this time. A plea carried on the cold air. Help? The word was faint, broken, but he understood it. He hesitated for a moment. Why would a child be here in the middle of nowhere? Curiosity pushed him forward. He stepped carefully, his boots pressing against the glowing ground without a sound. The voice grew louder as he moved deeper into the forest. Soon, more voices joined the first, several of them, all small, all frightened. When he reached the clearing, he saw them. A group of little figures sat huddled together near a cracked stone pillar. They were not human. Their skin shone faintly, like glass touched by moonlight. Their large, luminous eyes looked up at him with fear. Tiny hands clutched each other tightly, as though letting go would mean the end. They were alien girls, no older than children, but their faces carried the weight of terror. The human stopped at the edge of the clearing. For a moment, no one moved. The girls stared at him, wide-eyed, unsure if he was a savior or a threat. He slowly raised his hands, palms open, showing he meant no harm. "It's all right," he said in a low, calm voice. "I won't hurt you." The smallest one whimpered and hid her face, but another girl, taller than the rest, gathered a little courage. She stepped forward, her voice shaking. "Please help us." The words were broken, but clear enough. Her plea was heavy, filled with desperation. The others nodded quickly, their glowing eyes begging silently. The human's chest tightened. He had faced enemies before, he had walked through storms and fire, but this was different. They were children, helpless, afraid. He crouched down slowly, bringing himself to their level. "What happened to you?" he asked gently. The girls exchanged glances. None of them wanted to answer. The taller one opened her mouth, then closed it again, her throat tightening. She only whispered, "It's coming." A shiver ran down the human's spine. He turned his head slightly, scanning the shadows of the forest. The trees stood tall and still, but the silence was heavier now. Too heavy. He felt eyes on him, though he could not see them. "What's coming?" he pressed. The girl shook her head quickly, as though speaking the name would bring death faster. She grabbed his hand with her tiny fingers, trembling. "Please," she said again. "Help us." The human swallowed hard. He could walk away. He could tell himself it wasn't his problem. But deep inside, something told him this was no accident. He had been brought here for a reason. He looked into their glowing eyes and made his choice. "Stay close," he said firmly. "I'll protect you." The relief on their faces was clear, though their fear did not fade. They clung to him, forming a small circle around his legs. Their trust felt heavy on his shoulders, but he accepted it. Then the sound came, low, deep, a growl that rolled across the ground like thunder. The air vibrated and the children froze. The human's hand moved to his weapon without thought, his body tense. His eyes swept the dark, searching. Between the trees, something shifted. Large, heavy, and silent. The tallest girl whispered in her own language, her voice filled with dread. The others clutched each other tighter, hiding their faces. The human didn't know what the words meant, but he understood their meaning. Whatever hunted them was close. "Move," he whispered. He guided the girls quickly into the thicker part of the forest. Their glowing skin lit the path faintly, but it also made them easy to see. The human cursed under his breath and urged them faster. His own heartbeat drummed in his ears, but he stayed calm on the outside. Panic would only make them weaker. Behind them, the growl came again. Closer, louder, more dangerous. The girls whimpered softly, their voices trembling with fear. One of them cried, "Don't let it find us." The human clenched his jaw. He had no idea what creature stalked them, but he knew one thing. It was powerful, and it wanted these children. Why? He didn't know yet, but he promised himself he would not let them fall. He pushed them forward, deeper into the strange glowing forest. Every step felt like a race against time. The air grew heavier, the silence sharper. He could sense it, the hunter was closing in. As the children stumbled beside him, clutching his hands, the human understood one truth. This night was only the beginning. Whatever hunted them would not stop, and protecting these alien children might change his life forever. The forest grew darker the deeper they went. The silver leaves that once glowed above now seemed dim, as though even the trees feared what followed them. The human led the group with steady steps, but every muscle in his body was tense. The alien girls moved close behind, their glowing skin faintly lighting the path. It made them visible, and he hated that. It was like carrying a lantern while something dangerous stalked in the shadows. He glanced back at them. Their wide eyes searched the forest, their small hands clutching each other tightly. They trusted him, though they barely knew him. That trust was heavy on his shoulders. He tightened his grip on the weapon at his side. If the thing chasing them attacked, he would fight no matter the cost. "Stay close," he whispered again. The tallest girl nodded, trying to appear brave, though fear shook her voice. Another girl stumbled over a root, and he caught her before she fell. She looked up at him with tear-filled eyes, whispering something in her own language. He didn't understand, but the fear in her tone said enough. The sound came again, a low growl drawn out rolling through the trees. This time it was closer, far too close. The girls froze in terror. The human looked around quickly. They could not keep running forever. The forest was wide and endless, but the creature was faster. They needed a place to hide. His sharp eyes caught sight of something ahead, a broken structure, half buried in the ground. Its stone walls were cracked, and its roof sagged, but it was shelter. He led the girls toward it quickly. "Inside," he ordered firmly. The children obeyed, rushing into the ruined building. The human followed, keeping one hand on his weapon, his eyes scanning the trees until the last second. The growl did not come again, but the silence was worse. Silence meant it was waiting. Inside, the air was colder. Dust floated through the faint light that slipped between broken stones. Strange markings covered the walls, glowing faintly as if alive. The girls huddled together, whispering softly. The human crouched near them, his eyes still on the entrance. "What is it?" he asked, his voice low. "What hunts you?" The tallest girl looked at him, her lips trembling. She wanted to speak, but the others shook their heads quickly. Fear silenced them. They pressed closer together, eyes darting toward the doorway as if the shadows themselves carried death. Frustrated but patient, the human tried again. "I can't protect you if I don't know what's out there." Finally, one of the younger girls lifted her small hand. On her skin, strange patterns glowed faintly. They twisted like flowing rivers of light. The human frowned, realizing these were not simple markings. They were alive, pulsing with energy. "They know where we are," the girl whispered, her voice shaking. "Because of this." The human stared at the glowing lines. "What are they?" She lowered her eyes. "We were born with them. It's why they chase us." The others nodded quickly, tears filling their eyes. The human felt a chill crawl up his spine. These children were not ordinary. Someone wanted them badly enough to send a monster after them. Before he could ask more, the building shuddered. Dust rained down from the cracked ceiling. A heavy thud echoed outside, then another. The girls screamed softly, covering their ears. The human's blood turned cold. The hunter was here. He signaled for silence, pressing a finger to his lips. The children obeyed instantly, covering their mouths to muffle their cries. The air grew heavy, thick with dread. A shadow passed across the doorway. Large, slow. The creature's footsteps shook the ground. The human's hand tightened on his weapon. His breath slowed. He had fought beasts before, but this one was different. He could feel its hunger, its power. The shadow lingered at the entrance. For a moment he thought it would come inside. The girls trembled, their glowing skin brightening with fear. The human cursed under his breath. If they didn't calm down, their light would give them away. He quickly knelt beside them. "Breathe slow," he whispered. "Do not move." The tallest girl nodded and tried to calm the others. Their small chests rose and fell quickly, but little by little they quieted. The shadow shifted again, stretching across the wall. The creature sniffed the air, a deep, guttural sound that made the stones shake. The human's grip tightened. If it came inside, he would fight. He would not let it take them. Then, just as suddenly, the shadow moved away. The heavy footsteps grew faint, fading into the distance. The children exhaled in relief, some bursting into tears. But the human did not relax. He knew the truth. The hunter had not given up. It was waiting, testing, playing with them like a predator plays with its prey. He looked at the girls, his voice firm. "This place will not keep us safe for long. We move at dawn." The tallest girl nodded slowly. She wiped her tears, her small face set with determination. "Will you stay with us?" she asked softly. The human looked at her. Her eyes were filled with fear, but also hope. He did not hesitate. "Yes," he said. "I'll stay." The children clung to him, comforted by his words. But as the night deepened, and the shadows thickened around the ruined building, the human knew the truth. Their journey had only begun. The danger was greater than anything he had faced before, and whatever hunted them would not stop until it had what it wanted. Outside, in the forest, two glowing red eyes opened in the dark. Watching, waiting. The night felt endless. Inside the broken stone shelter, the air was thick with silence, but it was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of something waiting just beyond the walls. The human sat near the doorway, weapon in hand, his eyes fixed on the shifting shadows outside. Behind him, the alien girls huddled together, their glowing skin faintly lighting the dusty room. Every time one of them moved or whispered, the human's heart clenched. Their light was both a gift and a curse. It kept them from total darkness, but it also risked drawing the predator back. The human had fought many battles before, but this one was different. He was not only fighting for himself, he was fighting for children who had no way to defend themselves. That made the weight on his shoulders heavier, but it also gave him a fire he had not felt in years. At first light, when the purple sky turned pale, he stood and stretched his stiff legs. "We can't stay here," he said firmly. "It knows where we are." The tallest girl, who had shown the most courage, nodded slowly. Her small hand brushed the glowing marks on her arm. "It always knows," she whispered. The others looked at her with fear, but also trust. If she believed in the human, they all would. He motioned for them to follow. The children clung together as they stepped outside, their wide eyes scanning the forest. The silver leaves rustled faintly in the morning air, and for a moment, it almost seemed calm. But the human knew better. Calm was only the mask of something waiting to strike. They moved quickly, weaving through the trees. The glowing plants underfoot lit their path, and the strange forest stretched endlessly around them. The human kept glancing behind, his instincts screaming that the hunter was close. Then it came, the growl, louder than before. It rolled across the ground, shaking the trees. The girls gasped, their little feet stumbling as fear filled their bodies. "Run!" the human commanded. They obeyed instantly, their small hands gripping each other as they followed him deeper into the woods. The growl grew closer, and then came the sound of heavy footsteps crashing through the underbrush. Whatever chased them was not hiding anymore. It was coming, and it was fast. The human's breath grew sharp as he searched for cover. Ahead, he spotted a cluster of rocks rising like jagged teeth from the glowing ground. There, he shouted. They scrambled toward the rocks, the girls struggling to keep up. The human scooped up the smallest one in his arms and pushed forward with the others. The ground trembled with every step the beast took. The air filled with its stench, sharp and foul, like rotting metal mixed with burning flesh. The children whimpered, tears running down their faces, but they did not stop. They trusted him. They reached the rocks just as the beast broke into view. It was enormous. Its body was covered in thick plates of bone, and its long arms ended in claws that dug into the earth. Its mouth stretched too wide, rows of teeth glistening like blades. Its eyes burned red, fixed on the glowing children. Drool dripped from its jaws as it let out a roar that shook the ground. The girls screamed, clutching each other tightly. The human shoved them behind the rocks, raising his weapon. His pulse thundered in his ears, but his hands were steady. He had no time for fear. The beast charged. The human rolled to the side, pulling the trigger. The weapon's blast lit up the forest, striking the beast's shoulder. The creature roared in rage but did not slow. It swung its massive claw, smashing stone to dust where he had been standing seconds before. The children cried out, but the human shouted, "Stay down!" He darted between rocks, firing again. Another shot burned across the beast's hide, but it was not enough. The monster was too strong, too fast. Each step it took cracked the glowing ground beneath its weight. The tallest girl pressed her glowing hands to the stone, whispering something in her own language. Strange patterns spread across the rock, glowing brighter. The human caught it out of the corner of his eye but had no time to question. The beast lunged again, its jaws snapping shut inches from him. With a quick move, he grabbed a loose shard of stone and jammed it into the beast's mouth. The monster roared in pain, thrashing wildly. Dust and glowing shards rained from the rocks as the ground shook. The human used the moment to grab the children and push them further into a narrow gap between the stones. The beast slammed against the rock, trying to squeeze through, but the passage was too tight. Its claws scraped the stone, its red eyes burning with fury. It roared, shaking the forest. The children cried, but the human crouched in front of them, his voice strong. "Don't look at it. Look at me." Their wide eyes turned to him. They were still trembling, still afraid, but they listened. His presence was the only thing keeping them from breaking completely. Outside, the beast slammed again, harder, breaking pieces of stone. The human knew the rocks would not hold forever. They had bought time, nothing more. He wiped the sweat from his brow and looked at the girls. "We'll make it," he promised, even though he wasn't sure. "But we have to move again before it breaks through." The tallest girl nodded, her face pale but determined. "We'll follow you," she whispered. The human tightened his grip on his weapon and looked back at the glowing red eyes glaring through the cracks. The beast was not giving up. It wanted the children, and it would chase them until one side fell. This was no ordinary pursuit. This was a hunt, and the human had just become the prey's last hope. The rocks trembled with every strike. Dust rained down on the alien girls as they pressed closer together, their small hands gripping each other so tightly their knuckles turned pale. The human stood between them and the entrance, weapon raised, eyes locked on the beast outside. Each roar shook his bones, but he did not move. Fear clawed at him, but he pushed it down. He could not show weakness, not now. The creature rammed the rocks again. A crack opened in the wall, glowing faintly with the girl's strange light. Through the gap, its red eyes glared like burning coals, and its teeth scraped the stone as it tried to force its way inside. One of the youngest girls sobbed. "It will break through," she cried in her broken voice. The human glanced back at her, his face calm though his heart thundered. "Not if I stop it," he said firmly. The tallest girl shook her head. "You can't fight it. It's too strong." He looked at her, steady and unshaken. "Strong or not, it will not take you." The beast roared again, shaking the stone loose. The human knew they couldn't just hide anymore. He had to stand against it or the children would be torn apart. Slowly, he took a breath and made his choice. "Stay here," he told the girls. No matter what happens, don't come out. The tallest one reached for his arm, her glowing fingers trembling. You'll die, she whispered. He gave a small, grim smile. Then I'll die standing. Before they could stop him, he pushed through the narrow gap and stepped out into the open. The air was thick with dust and the stench of the beast. It towered over him, its massive body armored in bone and scars. Its claws dug trenches into the earth as it turned toward him, lips curling back to reveal rows of jagged teeth. Drool dripped onto the glowing grass, sizzling like acid. The human gripped his weapon tight and shouted, "Come on!" The beast roared, answering his challenge, and charged. The ground shook as it rushed forward. The human rolled to the side, firing. The blast struck its flank, burning a dark wound, but the monster barely flinched. It swung its claw, smashing the rocks where he had stood seconds before, sending shards flying. He ran, weaving between the stone pillars, forcing the beast to follow. Each time it lunged, he fired, striking its hide, but it only grew angrier. The forest echoed with roars, the air alive with dust and fire. Inside the shelter, the girls watched through the cracks. Their eyes were wide with terror and awe. The smallest one whispered, "Why does he fight for us? He doesn't even know who we are." The tallest girl answered softly, "Because he's human." Outside, the battle raged. The human slid behind a tall stone, panting hard. His weapon hummed hot in his hands. He knew he couldn't keep this up forever. The beast was strong, and it would not stop until it crushed him. He looked around quickly, searching for an edge. His eyes caught a cluster of jagged rocks hanging above a narrow path. If he could lure the beast there, with a deep breath, he sprinted into the open. The beast roared and lunged. He ran straight toward the path, firing over his shoulder to keep its attention. The monster's massive body slammed after him, its claws tearing chunks of earth. At the last moment, he dove aside, rolling across the glowing grass. The beast barreled forward into the path, smashing against the rocks. With one last shot, the human fired at the weakened stone above. The rocks cracked, then collapsed. A thunderous crash filled the forest as boulders rained down, slamming into the beast. Dust and stone exploded upward, covering everything in a choking cloud. The ground went still. For a moment, silence returned. The girls inside the shelter held their breath. "Did he kill it?" one whispered. The human coughed through the dust, his body aching, his ears ringing. Slowly he stood, weapon still in hand, eyes searching the rubble. The stones covered the beast's body, but deep beneath, he heard it, a low, rumbling growl. His jaw tightened. It wasn't dead. Not yet. The rubble shifted, glowing red eyes flashing through the dust. The creature roared again, furious and unbroken, and shoved the rocks aside. Its armor cracked and bleeding, but its strength undiminished. The human cursed under his breath. "You just don't quit, do you?" The beast charged again. This time, the human didn't retreat. He stood his ground. He waited until it was nearly upon him, then fired directly into its open mouth. The blast scorched its throat, and the creature staggered, roaring in pain. It swung wildly, smashing stone and soil. The force sent the human crashing to the ground, his weapon flying from his grip. The children screamed inside the shelter. The beast loomed over him, its jaws dripping acid like saliva, its claws raised for the kill. The human forced himself up, grabbing a sharp stone shard from the ground. His muscles burned, his breath ragged, but he refused to stop. With a roar of his own, he drove the shard upward as the beast lunged. The shard pierced its eye. The creature shrieked, its roar shaking the entire forest. Staggered back, thrashing violently. The human scrambled away, chest heaving, as the monster smashed blindly at the rocks. Inside, the girls clung to each other, their glowing markings pulsing faster, reacting to the danger. The tallest whispered, "He heard it. He can fight it." But the human knew the truth. He had wounded the beast, yes, but it was still alive, still hunting. He stood tall, breathing hard, blood on his arms, dust on his face. His weapon lay broken, his body exhausted. Yet his eyes burned with defiance. "Come again," he muttered, staring at the wounded monster. "I'll stand until one of us falls." The night carried his words, and the forest seemed to listen. The battle was far from over. The dust of the battle still hung in the air. The beast had pulled back for the moment, retreating into the forest with an angry roar, but the human knew it wasn't gone. It was circling, waiting, planning its next attack. He stood near the broken rocks, his chest heaving, his arms bruised and bleeding, but his eyes stayed sharp. Behind him, the alien girls rushed out from their hiding place, their glowing faces full of worry. The tallest girl reached him first. "You are hurt," she said softly. The human waved her concern aside. "I'll survive. But that thing, it won't stop." The girls looked at each other, then back at him. Their silence was heavy, like they carried a truth too painful to share. Finally, the smallest girl spoke in a trembling voice. "It follows us because of who we are." The human frowned. "Who you are? What does that mean?" The tallest girl hesitated, her glowing markings brightening on her arms and neck. She lifted her sleeve, showing the strange lines that pulsed like living fire. "We were born with this," she said. "It is not decoration. It is power." The other girls raised their arms, showing the same glowing patterns. Each line shimmered as though it carried the light of stars. The human stared, understanding dawning in his mind. These were not just markings. They were something far greater. The tallest girl's voice shook as she continued. "Our people say we are chosen. Our blood carries the memory of ancient rulers. They fear us, and they want us." The human's jaw tightened. "Who wants you?" Her eyes filled with tears. "The ones who took our village. They came at night. They said we belonged to them now, that we would be weapons. We ran, but they sent the beast after us." The other girls began to cry quietly, their glowing light flickering as though tied to their emotions. The human's chest ached at the sight. He crouched down, meeting their eyes. "You're children," he said firmly. "Not weapons. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." The tallest girl shook her head. "You don't understand. We are not only children. We carry something inside us, something even we cannot control. That is why they want us." The human studied their glowing lines more closely. They were like rivers of energy, shifting and alive. He reached out carefully, and the tallest girl let him place his hand near the markings. The warmth that radiated from them was not natural. It was like touching raw power. "What happens if they take you?" he asked quietly. The girl's voice broke as she whispered, "Then whole worlds will fall." For a moment, the human said nothing. He looked at them, small, trembling, terrified, and he felt a fire burn inside him. He had been a soldier once. He had seen cruelty, greed, and the hunger for power. But this hunting innocent children to turn them into weapons, this was beyond unforgivable. He stood tall, his eyes hard. "Then they won't have you," he said with absolute certainty. "Not while I'm alive." The girls stared at him, shocked by his conviction. One of them asked softly, "Why? Why would you fight for us? You don't even know us." The human looked at them, his voice steady but full of quiet anger. "Because you deserve to live free. Because you remind me of what matters. And because no child should ever beg for help and be left alone." The words struck them deeply. The tallest girl's glowing markings flared brighter, pulsing with warmth. She whispered, "I saw you, before tonight, in a vision." The human blinked. "A vision?" She nodded. "I didn't understand it then. I saw a human standing before the beast. I thought it was a dream, but now I know it was you." The others gasped softly, their fear mixing with hope. The human, though unsettled, did not question it. He had never believed in destiny, but something about this moment felt larger than chance. He turned toward the forest. The silence outside was too deep, too dangerous. The beast was waiting, but now he understood. This was not just about survival. This was about protecting the future these girls carried inside them. He faced them again. "Listen to me," You are not alone anymore. Whatever power you have, whatever danger hunts you, I'll face it with you. But you must trust me completely." The tallest girl nodded, her glowing patterns bright like fireflies in the night. "We trust you," she said with quiet strength. The other girls echoed softly, "We trust you." The human felt the weight of their words settle in his chest. For the first time in years, he was not just surviving. He had a purpose greater than himself. A sudden roar split the air, shaking the ground beneath their feet. The beast was back, crashing through the forest, angrier than ever. The children cried out, but the human raised his weapon, his eyes blazing with determination. "Stay behind me," he ordered. "No matter what happens, remember, you're not weapons. Your lives worth saving." The girls huddled together, their glowing markings pulsing in rhythm, as though their power was awakening in response to his courage. The human stepped forward, facing the dark forest where the beast emerged, massive and unstoppable. He planted his feet firmly, ready for the fight of his life. The secret was out. The girls carried something the galaxy would kill to possess, and he was the wall that stood between them and the darkness. The ground still shook from the beast's roar, but the human did not flinch. He stood in front of the alien girls, weapon gripped tightly, his eyes fixed on the dark forest. The beast had returned, stronger and angrier than before, its red eyes burning through the trees like fire. The girls huddled behind him, their glowing patterns flickering wildly. They clutched each other's hands, whispering prayers in their own tongue. Fear poured off them like heat, but in that fear was something else too, hope. They believed he could protect them. The human knew they could not keep running forever. The forest stretched endlessly, and the beast would chase them until one side fell. He needed a plan, not just strength. He remembered the girls' words. Their markings carried power. He didn't know what kind, but maybe that power could help them survive. He turned slightly, speaking quickly but firmly. "There's a human outpost a few days from here. If we can reach it, you'll be safe. Soldiers, walls, weapons, they can protect you." The tallest girl shook her head, her glowing eyes wide. "It will follow us. The beast never stops." The human glanced at her. "Then we make it stop. Together." His voice was sharp, but steady, filled with conviction. The children stared at him, uncertain at first, then slowly nodding. Something in his tone broke through their fear. The beast roared again, closer now, snapping branches as it crashed toward them. The human tightened his jaw. They had no time to waste. "Move," he ordered. They ran, guided by his steady pace. The glowing plants lit the path beneath their feet, but the light also made them easier to track. The human cursed under his breath, searching for ways to confuse the monster. At one point, he tore down branches and brushed them over the glowing ground to hide their tracks, but he knew it wouldn't fool the beast for long. Its sense of smell was too sharp, its hunger too deep. Hours passed. The forest thinned, the trees spreading apart to reveal hills glowing with pale light. The children stumbled often, their small legs growing weaker, but each time they fell, the human lifted them up without hesitation. His body ached, his breath came heavy, but he never slowed. One of the younger girls whispered, "Why do you help us so much? You could leave. Save yourself." The human looked down at her, his expression grim but gentle. "Because you asked for help. And when someone asks, you don't walk away." The girl's eyes filled with tears. She squeezed his hand tighter, as though his words gave her strength. Behind them, the beast roared again, louder, closer. The ground trembled as its massive body thundered after them. The girls cried out, their fear rising. "Keep going," the human shouted. They pushed forward, reaching a ridge of rocks. From the top, he could see the faint outline of distant mountains. Beyond those mountains, the human outpost waited. It was still far, but it was a goal, a reason to keep moving. "We're close," he said, though his voice was heavy with exhaustion. But before they could continue, the beast appeared. It climbed the ridge with terrifying speed, its claws tearing into the stone, its massive body blocking their path. The girls froze, their glowing patterns pulsing like frantic heartbeats. The human stood in front of them, his weapon raised, his body shaking from fatigue but still defiant. "Stay behind me," he ordered again. The beast roared, the sound deafening, shaking loose rocks from the ridge. It lunged, claws wide, mouth open to devour. The human fired, blast after blast, each one striking the monster's armored hide. Sparks and smoke filled the air, but the beast kept coming, unstoppable. It swung its claw, striking the ground near him, sending shockwaves through the ridge. The children screamed as they fell to their knees. And then something happened. The tallest girl stood, her glowing markings shining brighter than ever before. She stretched out her arms, and light poured from her skin like fire. The other girls followed, their fear turning into raw energy. Together, their glowing lines pulsed in rhythm, forming patterns that spread across the ridge. The human turned in shock. "What are you doing?" Her voice was steady now, stronger than before. "Helping you." The light grew brighter, wrapping around the human like a shield. The beast lunged again, but the glowing energy flared, forcing it back. The monster roared in pain as the light burned its armored hide, leaving black scars. The children's faces strained with effort, but they did not stop. Their voices rose together in a strange, melodic chant. The air vibrated with power, the ground glowing beneath their feet. The human realized it then, their markings were not just symbols. They were a force, a weapon, yes, but also a gift. The beast stumbled, blinded by the light. The human seized the moment. With a roar of his own, he charged forward, firing into its wounded chest. The blasts tore through its cracked armor, forcing it back down the ridge. The children's light flared once more, striking the beast like a wave. The monster howled, tumbling down the rocks, its body smashing into the glowing earth below. For the first time, silence followed. The girls collapsed, exhausted, their glow dimming. The human rushed to them, kneeling beside the tallest. "Are you all right?" he asked urgently. She nodded weakly, her breath ragged. "We helped, because you helped us first." The human's chest tightened. He brushed the dust from her face, his voice softer now. "You're stronger than you know, but you're still children. Don't forget that." The girls smiled faintly, their trust in him deeper than ever. The human looked out at the fallen beast below. Smoke rose from its body, but he knew better than to assume it was dead. It would return, and if not this one, then others would come. He stood, lifting his weapon again, his eyes set on the distant mountains. "This isn't the end," he muttered. "It's the turning point." Behind him, the children rose slowly, their glow faint but steady. They were no longer just frightened fugitives. They were a bond, a force awakened. And with the human leading them, they had a chance. The ridge was silent, but it was not peace. Smoke drifted upward where the beast had fallen, and the air smelled of ash and blood. The human stood at the edge, weapon raised, eyes fixed on the broken body below. He had seen creatures like this before, too strong, too unnatural to die easily. He knew the fight was not finished. Behind him, the alien girls sat in a circle, their glowing patterns faint after the power they had released. They looked drained, their small shoulders trembling from exhaustion, but their eyes stayed on the human with trust. Even in their weakness, they believed in him. The ground rumbled. Slowly, the beast moved. Rocks slid as its massive body shifted, and its red eyes flared once more. It was alive, scarred but still burning with rage. With a roar that shook the ridge, it began to climb again, claws tearing into the stone. The girls gasped, fear rushing back into their voices. "It won't stop," one cried. The human turned, his voice firm. "Then neither will we." He stepped forward, standing tall at the edge, his weapon humming weakly from overuse. His body ached, his wounds stung, but his spirit refused to break. This was not about survival anymore. It was about choice. He could run, leave the children to fate, or he could stand, even if it meant death. For him, there was no question. The tallest girl pulled herself up, her glowing markings pulsing weakly. "We can help again," she said. The human shook his head. "You've done enough. You're just children." Her voice steadied. "No, we are more than children. But without you, we are nothing." The words cut deep. He looked at them, their frightened faces glowing faintly in the dusk. Something stirred in his chest, a fire that had long been buried. He remembered the wars he had fought, the comrades he had lost, the promises he had broken. But here, with these children, he found something pure, a reason to fight beyond himself. The beast reached the top of the ridge. Its roar split the sky, scattering birds of silver light into the air. The ground shook as it advanced, broken armor glowing with cracks of molten red. Its jaws opened, dripping acid, ready to strike. The human planted his feet. "Stay behind me," he ordered. The children obeyed, but their glowing lines began to pulse again, rising with his courage. Together they faced the monster. The beast lunged, claws wide. The human dodged, rolling across the glowing ground, firing a blast into its chest. The shot staggered it, but not enough. It swung back, its claw smashing into the rocks, sending shards flying. The children cried out, their glow brightening. One of them shouted in their language, and the air vibrated with power. Their markings lit up like stars, connecting them in patterns that stretched across the ridge. The human felt the energy wrap around him again, like a shield of living light. The beast roared and attacked, but the light burned its hide, forcing it back. The human charged forward, using the opening. He climbed onto the beast's arm, firing point blank into its neck. The creature shrieked, thrashing violently, but he held on, driving blast after blast until smoke poured from its wounds. With one last strike, he jammed his weapon deep into the crack of its chest and fired. The blast ripped through its core, and the beast roared one final time before collapsing. The ground shook as it crashed, its body glowing faintly, then dimming to darkness. Silence fell. The human slid down from the beast's body, his breath ragged, his hands burned. For a long moment he simply stood there, staring at the fallen monster. Then he turned to the children. Their faces lit up with tears and smiles. The tallest girl whispered, "You did it." He shook his head. "We did it. Together." The girls rushed to him, hugging his arms, their glowing patterns flickering softly. For the first time since he met them, their fear was gone. In its place was something new, hope. But deep inside, the human knew the truth. This beast was only one. Others would come. Whoever wanted these children would not stop. He looked toward the distant mountains, where the human outpost waited. "We have to keep moving," he said. This was only the beginning. The tallest girl nodded. Her voice was small but certain. "We will follow you, wherever you go." The human felt the weight of her words. He had not asked for this role, but it had found him. These children carried the future of their kind, and now, perhaps, the future of more than one world. And he, one lone human, was their protector. As the sun rose, turning the alien sky gold, the human led them down the ridge. The glowing grass lit their path, and the forest slowly gave way to open ground. The children walked close, their markings glowing softly in rhythm with his steps. For them, he was not just a stranger anymore. He was their shield, their guide, their choice of hope against the darkness. And for him, these children were no longer just a burden. They were the reason he had found himself again. The unimaginable had happened. Not that he had defeated the beast, but that he, a single human, had become the light these alien girls needed. The galaxy might never know his name, but for them he was everything.